Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at race number 8 at Aqueduct on Gotham Saturday. It's the Grade 3 Tom Fool Handicap. $150,000 is the purse. Older sprinters going 3/4 of a mile. Let's take a look at this field. It's a pretty good group with some speed in here, Mike. The number 3, Runninsonofagun, is your 5-2 morning line favorite, and why not? This horse is already a graded stakes winner at Aqueduct, going 6 furlongs. Beat Eastern Bay in the Bold Ruler 2 starts back.
Yeah, narrowly got the job done in the Bold Ruler. That was nice to see him break through, though, and get that win. 2 starts back in the Bold Ruler again. He came out of that with another good performance at the end of the year in the Fall Highway. It just felt like he was, getting better with every start as a 3-year-old.
There should be some speed in this race. We throw up the Timeform US pace projector. I won't be surprised if this race turns out to be hot up front with Chateau, who's one-way speed, and Pirate Rick, who looks like he likes to be forwardly placed as well.
Yeah, it almost feels like they kind of are destined to hook up in this race, Dan. Chateau, I kind of feels like he's not as fast as he used to be, but he still wants to lead in his races, and he's got the inside post here. Pirate Rick is another horse. Every one of his races, they're just trying to make the front with him. When he raced Chateau at the end of December, he actually outran Chateau to the lead there and made that horse chase. So I can see both of these horses going in this race.
Pirate Rick's stablemate, the number 1 Eastern Bay, had a lot of back class, and he was claimed for $35,000 by Lynn Cash around 11 months ago, and Cash has gotten him good again. Second in the Vosburg behind subsequent Breeders' Cup Sprint winner and champion Elite Power, then ran a good second in the Bold Ruler, and then got it done in this race, becoming a millionaire in the General George at Laurel. And what was nice about this race is he was able to stay close to the pace. He's more of a mid-pack late runner. He runs on very easily to deny Pirate Rick and the rest, and he's going to get some pace to run at here.
Yeah, just plenty pointed in this horse's direction, Dan. He's just been in good form for a long time now. He got a little bit of a layoff before this race. It felt like it did him some good. He sat a good trip. He won very convincingly at the end of the race. Just another good performance. And from a horse who shows up and runs well every single time. He's a major player in here.
Number 2 is Chateau, who won the Tom Fool in 2021, finished second in this race last year, and will now make his first start off the David Jacobson claim. His most recent start was for a $62,500 optional claiming tag. Let's watch this effort. Chateau's one-way speed. We know that's him. He often has trouble finishing off his races, so the fact that Pirate Rick is in here might soften him up. We see him get very tired at the end of this race.
Yeah, exactly, Dan. I mean, even if he's able to shake loose on the lead like he did in this race right here, this allowance race, he got loose early in here, but he's just not finishing in that final furlong. He can't even hold second in this race. It's a pretty disappointing performance. He's the kind of horse who was never really that reliable anyway. It doesn't even feel like he's as good now as he used to be. And having Pirate Rick to deal with early really works against him.
The 4th place finisher from that race did come back to win for 62.5 with a 91 buyer. Runninsonofagun is up next. He's just a really consistent, honest horse on the board in 11 of 12. Still trying to figure out how Eastern Bay didn't get him in the Bold Ruler 2 starts back. Eastern Bay was rolling outside of him when that pace fell apart, and it looked like maybe either Eastern Bay hung or Runninsonofagun came back on him again, but Runninsonofagun flattered that performance with this effort in the Grade 3 Fall Highway, going 3/4 of a mile. He comes with his usual late run. He's going to get beat a neck, finishing ahead of 2 next out winners.
This is a tough beat for him here, Dan. He had to come around to the outside there in the stretch. You see the winner's the 1 down there. He got right through on the rail. Runninsonofagun's going to come lunging at him late. He just can't quite get up. It's a good performance from him, though. He also ran well in the Bold Ruler. And again, it just felt like he was getting better with every start last year. He really overachieved through the summer, just going off at huge prices and hitting the board in stakes races. And he just finally got better at the end of the year.
And the gray horse in that blanket finish factored in very good form. He came back to win 2 stakes at Laurel, including the Dave's Friend with a 101 buyer. Drafted is up next. He's hoping for a fast pace up front. He might get it. He was 3rd behind Repo Rocks, who's just evolved into one of the better sprint horses in the country right now, last time out in the toboggan. In this race, he's going to get pace, and this is the kind of horse you never want to give short shrift to, because he'll always come with a late run. He'll always give an honest effort. It's all about whether he gets the setup.
Yeah, and it feels like he's going to be a price in this race too, Dan. So I think all those things that you mentioned are true, and it sort of makes me want to leave him at least open in this race at what should be a fair price, because he's another one. Maybe his top race isn't quite as good as the top race of some of the others in here, although that's debatable. But this horse, he's very consistent. He always runs, and when there's pace in front of him, he will be making up ground late. It kind of feels like he's going to have the right setup here.
Pirate Rick likely to be one of the speeds along with Chateau, and he's trying to run back to that 104 Beyer speed figure here in 3 starts back, a race in which he got to an easy lead. Now, he's been beaten in stakes in his last 2. We saw him falter last time out behind his stablemate Eastern Bay. Both of those races were at 7/8. I think he'll be more effective at 3/4, but the possibility of an enervating pace duel, that makes me a little bit dubious.
Yeah, that's a good point, though, about the 6 furlongs, Dan, because maybe the 7 just ultimately worked against him too much in his last 2 starts. I mean, he was pretty bad, I thought, in both the Toboggan and the General George, because even if he doesn't really want 7, it's not like those paces were super fast, and he was kind of loose early and just really didn't have a finish. It sort of makes me wonder if he's starting to head the wrong way now after putting together a nice winning streak towards the end of last year.
The number 6 Nakatomi just looks like a live contender in this race for Wesley Ward, making his first start as a 4-year-old. I like this horse in the Gallant Bob last year on Pennsylvania Derby Day, and he just fell so far behind over a track that was kind to front runners, but he still was making up some late ground. He backed up that race with a win at Keeneland, and then last time out in the Malibu, he was punching on a little bit at the end behind Taba. This is certainly a bit of a class relief.
Yeah, better spot for him. He wasn't going to win the Malibu anyway, I guess. But rating him back to last at the start of that race, I'm not sure if that was the greatest idea in the world. I still thought he ran pretty well in there, Dan. Overall, his form's pretty good. I really like the way he finishes in his races. So if this pace is fast, I think it helps him as much as it helps anybody else in here. I would just say the one thing that you have to always worry about with Nakatomi is he's pretty bad from the gate most times. He doesn't really break that sharply, and I don't, necessarily feel like he can get away with a poor start in a race like this. But if he gets out of the gate well in here, he could get a good trip in this race. I think he's really dangerous.
The number 7 is Little Vic, and he was speed crazy early in his career, but he has learned as he has gotten older and matured to sit just off the lead. He got a perfect trip in winning the City of Laurel 3 starts back, redrafted in behind the leaders, came through a big opening on the inside, and was able to draw off. He took a tough beat in his subsequent start, getting beaten a nose by Draft in the Gravesend. And then last time out was just no match for Repo Rocks, who popped something like a 111 Beyer speed figure and came back to win last week, the Stymie with a 97. I think he's just going to sit into a catbird trip off of the 2 speeds and maybe get the jump on everybody turning for home.
I can see that happening for sure, Dan. I thought he ran well in the Gravesend 2 back, but I also felt like Drafted ran really well in that race too, just because that pace wasn't that fast. So they both ran well in there. I won't take anything away from Little Vic, though, for just losing. And I get what they were doing last time. I mean, you sort of raid on the outside. It felt like it was a good trip, but it's not going to matter when the winner runs a 111 because Little Vic can't run that fast. His form right now is fine. And you're right. He could get a really good trip in this race.
And completing the field is the number 8, Wendell Fong. This horse is a true one-run closer. He's going to come from way out of it. And he has several back races that would make him competitive with this group. He's likely going to get a much faster pace than he did last time out when he was in against some solid allowance runners at Laurel.
Yeah, he was pretty disappointing last time as the favorite, but maybe that race just didn't set up the right way for him. His races 2 and 3 back, I guess they're pretty good, Dan. Maybe they give him a chance to get something in here. I still feel like this is a really tough spot for him. He's got a race or 2 that gives him a chance, but overall, it feels like there are several horses in here who are just better than he is.
Top pick time for the Tom Fool. I'm hoping Little Vic can just sort of settle into a trip from the outside behind the 2 speeds, get the first run on the closers, and maybe hold off a horse like Nakatomi, who will be running late. Nakatomi, I still think, though, Mike, has a lot of upside. It's kind of an interesting horse to follow this year.
I agree with you, Dan. I feel like in this race in particular, he's probably the only one who has any upside left. I'm pretty sure we've seen the best race of just about everybody else. Probably not his. I think he fits well in here anyway. I think he can get a good trip in this race.
6134 for Mike, 7631 for me. It's the Tom Fool, a graded stakes for the older sprinters on Gotham Saturday at Aqueduct. Good luck.